Hello, thank you for being in a new video. This time I have an unboxing of the Xiaomi 14 Ultra along with the photography kit so that we can see everything that this device can achieve. Let's get started. So the first thing we will do will be to take the cell phone out of the box, which by the way is a considerably large box, taking into account what most manufacturers currently offer us in the high end with super thin cases. But in this case it seems that it will have much more content. So let's take the phone out. So the first thing we find is this envelope that will contain a little more elements. First we find the key to remove the SIM card tray, then we'll find the usual paperwork. We will not pay much attention to them. And something that pleases me is that it does include a case. That is something that few manufacturers in the high end include. So I like it. In this case we're talking about a semi-rigid case. This addition is outstanding because it's a case that even brings a nice design on the outside. As you notice, it's not just a transparent case that then turns yellow. In this case it does have a nice design. Even on the camera side it has a certain relief like a zoom ring. Although obviously it doesn't rotate or anything like that. But definitely that it's a very attractive case. So let's move on to see what's in the box. Now we get straight to the cell phone, but first let's see what the manufacturer wants to highlight as the most important elements of their device. For starters, it comes with Leica Sumilux optics. So in this case, Leica is not only collaborating at the software level, but it is also incorporating its lenses for this camera. Subsequently, we will find a new 1-inch sensor with variable aperture in its lens. That's another element that may come to distinguish this device. Then they continue to boast Leica, and in this case they talk about a 4-camera system. And unlike mid-range devices where they usually put a good camera and the rest of the cameras are very simple, because in this case the 4 cameras seem to be attractive. Then it tells us that it has a liquid display. That's what they have decided to call it to describe that it has 4 curves. Subsequently we find the Snapdragon, the 8 Gen 3, which is what we would expect in a high-end device. And finally, the AMOLED display with WQHD plus resolution. It is a very high resolution and with a variable refresh rate from 1 to 120 Hz. I think all of the elements do have the potential to be highlights in a high-end device. So let's take it out of this bag to meet it in person. And here it is with us. Let me introduce it to you, tell him with pleasure. The faux leather back cover feels very soft. It's a device that definitely looks like it's a camera. And something very curious is that the aluminum frame also covers part of this back to give it a higher level of resistance. Definitely the design looks very nice. Let's turn this device on, and while it's powering up, let's see what else is in the box. As you can see, this is the 90-watt charger, which in this case comes with a European connector. It's a charger that comes with the USB-A port on this side. Fortunately, it's compact enough that it's not considered a cumbersome charger, and it obviously maintains a good level of power. And in this case, we're talking about a cable with some orange highlights so you can easily distinguish it. Remember that it is necessary to use the original cable if you want to take advantage of the maximum charging power. In later content, we will do a charging test to see how powerful this charger can get. For now, that's all that comes in the box. But let's put the case on so you can see what it looks like on. First, we'll take this off. And watch, this is what it looks like with the case on. It's not bad at all, although I wish it had a little bit more color. Personally, I'm not so fond of devices that are completely black. I'd like it to have maybe here a gold color accent or something similar, but that's what we find in the regular box. Now let's take a look at what the photography kit brings, which is a pretty unique kit. In fact, it can become a little bit difficult to get your hands on, so let me show you what's in here. So let's cut this part out so we can open up the package good as new. We're going to remove the box and finally find out what's in here. Again, he points out to us that it's the photography kit. And if you didn't know it, it comes with a special handle to hold this cell phone as if it were a dedicated camera. Just look at the beauty of this kit. In this case, I do like the design that combines silver with black color, so definitely the included case is nice. But I would use this one that comes in the photography kit without hesitation. Let's set it up. It definitely takes the design up a notch immediately. Although I would have liked the case itself to say Xiaomi instead of leaving a window to see the original design, but that's just a small detail. Note that it also brings this other element. It will not only be a handle to hold the camera more easily and add controls for zoom and other things, but it will also function as a small additional battery and has its USB-C port. Although it's obviously going to be a small battery, but it complements the device well, so we're also going to place it. The placement is pretty straightforward, you just slide it in and that's it. Immediately the cell phone detected it as a power bank and noticed that you can now hold it like a camera. You have controls here for zooming, for recording, an additional wheel. So the experience is going to be very good, but let me remove this sticker so it looks nicer. Much better. Now it looks very clean design. Even in this part it has a lock to prevent the device from coming off, and also an area where you can place a strap to carry it and the USB port to put to charge it. To be exact, it is a 1500 milliamp battery that you are adding to your device by connecting this accessory, so you can extend the life of this device even further, especially if you're going to use it to take pictures or record videos in a long session. It's definitely useful. And also note that it still comes with some special rings that you can attach, because in this case it comes with a little button that will help you remove the frame that's already built in. And you can put the frame in orange, for example, in this case exclusively as a decoration in this orange tone, but the experience is very rewarding the moment you turn it and hear the click. This would definitely be the setting that I would use if I were going to take pictures somewhere special with this camera. And it also comes with another ring that you could use to attach filters. Although it doesn't come with filters included, but in this case, if you're into photography, you probably have some filters. And through this ring, you could also use them with this cell phone. So it's definitely one of the most attractive things I've seen in the cell phone industry. And finally, here comes the little box, where once again we will find the traditional papers, now explaining the operation of each of these special accessories. And finally this strap that, as I say, you can place in this corner to be able to easily carry this device. And in fact, carrying it this way, it does look like you're carrying a camera instead of a cell phone. Just a camera with a little screen. So that's what comes included in the box with all the photography kit. It's been a long time since I've had such an interesting unboxing in terms of the contents of the boxes. Lately, high-end devices come very simple, and it is very much appreciated that in this case we see a much more attractive proposal from Xiaomi, although this kit is sold separately, as I say, in some very exclusive versions. So now that we have the cell phone along with all this configuration, let's tell you its specifications. It has a weight of 219 grams and a thickness of 9.20 millimeters, obviously without considering this extra accessory that I put on it. The screen has a diagonal of 6.73 inches. Obviously we are talking about AMOLED technology with a resolution of 3200 by 1440 pixels, giving a density of 520 pixels per inch. This screen varies its refresh rate between 1 and 120 Hz. And obviously it will support HDR10 plus content. It reaches a peak brightness of 3000 nits, and definitely that is a spectacular display wherever you look at it. It obviously has stereo sound with great power, but if you have the camera accessory attached, one of the speakers is covered, although it still puts out good sound power, but I would have liked to see audio output on this accessory as well. The front camera is 32 megapixels with f-aperture 2.0 and fixed focus. The truth is that the fact that it has fixed focus disappoints me a bit, considering that it is a top-of-the-range device. Normally we demand the best they can offer, and in this case the fact of having fixed focus does disappoint quite a bit. Here I have, as always, a preview before taking the picture, so you can see that I am in a fairly complex environment of lights and shadows, and the end result is very well balanced. Also consider that this is an XDR technology photograph, so this area of the screen gives off more brightness, gives a very realistic feel, and if it can handle the highlights and shadows well, Although in this case the colors are a little less saturated because I chose the Leica natural setting, but it also has a vibrant mode along with Leica where it can give you more saturated colors. It's totally up to you as the user what kind of photography you want, and in the now we go with the most advanced photographic systems in the industry. To start with, we have a 12mm lens with the ultra-wide camera. It has 50 megapixels and also autofocus to support macro photography. The aperture is f1.8, making it one of the widest aperture ultra-wide cameras on the market. It also includes Sony's IMX858 sensor. Then we find what is considered the main camera of about 23mm or so. 50 megapixels also using the new Sony Lithium 900 sensor. In this case, if we find optical stabilization, obviously also has autofocus, and the remarkable thing is that the sensor is 1 inch. And another remarkable point is that it has variable aperture. Notice how it is able to vary between f1.63 and f4.0. And the advantage here is that you actually have lots and lots of steps in between, so it's not just dual aperture, it's actually variable aperture, something that very few smartphones these days can enjoy, and it can definitely give a much more professional level to your photography if you know how to take advantage of this parameter. So it's a very attractive feature. Then we will find the 75mm camera that is approximately 3.2x optical zoom. It also has 50 megapixels, f-aperture 1.8, so it's very bright. It also has optical stabilization, and it also supports macro photography, in this case at a distance of 10 centimeters, and it has Sony's IMX858 sensor. Again, as you can see, all cameras have high-end sensors, unlike other devices whose main sensor is of high quality and secondary sensors are very simple. Finally, we find the 120mm periscope camera that is 5x optical zoom, in this case with f-aperture 2.5. It also has 50 megapixels, its sensor, and it is also the IMX858. In fact, with this lens you could also take macro photography at a distance of 30 centimeters. No doubt about it, all four cameras are extremely attractive cameras. And notice how in conjunction with this little slider I can control the zoom perfectly. I can switch between all the cameras, and we will definitely have a very professional feel when using this accessory to take the pictures. In fact, the shutter also has two levels. The middle level is for focusing, and then you finish pressing and you hear that sound. It's very nice. It really has very low latency, and it gives you a very positive experience when you're taking your pictures. By the way, you can also press this button to start video recording even if you are in photo mode. See how it will switch to video mode and immediately start recording. Here are some sample photos, all of which I captured in Leica natural mode. So the colors really do look very natural. It's a cloudy day, so there's not so much color because the light is very white, but the result does look very natural. It depends on your taste in photography entirely, but I took this picture with the 23mm camera. It also allows you to take the picture with 46mm, which would be 2x's and retains optical quality. So, we have a very good result. Also, here is the 75mm photograph, and obviously here we have 100% optical quality, then the 120mm camera, and we still see excellent photography. So having multiple cameras at different focal lengths allows you to have very good quality photography and very good detail at any zoom setting. In fact, even if we go now to look at the 100% digital zoom, we see a 240mm photograph with an extreme level of detail. It looks very nice. In this case, we are talking about 10x zoom, which despite being digital zoom, taking advantage of the high resolution sensor, looks as if it were 100% optical. Now we're looking at the 720mm picture, that's 30x, and it still gives us excellent detail. Now you see 1440mm, that is 60x, and the maximum this camera lets you get is 120x, which I think is a bit exaggerated. You don't see that much detail, but obviously it's a zoom that you're not going to be using on a daily basis. I think that up to 30x is going to be the daily use, and definitely up to that range it gives you an extraordinary quality. I repeat once again that I was using the Leica Authentic setting, but there is also the vibrant mode. In fact, you can see a difference here. This is the photograph with Leica Authentic, and it doesn't mean that the colors look very pale or anything, but it is a less saturated setting as opposed to the vibrant mode, which manages to give a little more intensity to these colors. But personally, it seems like the picture does look good quality at various settings. In fact, one interesting thing is that they also allow you to take portrait shots at different focal lengths. Leica's color rendition is quite peculiar because it gives a very good accentuation to the shadows. So if you are one of those photographers who like to have these shadows more pronounced, definitely that the experience is very good. And in portrait mode, note that it detects the depth of the photograph very well to keep the foreground in focus and apply a much more intense blur to the background. It also lets you take portrait pictures at 35mm with the same behavior and a very good quality and level of detail, and it also lets you take portrait pictures at 75mm. Although in this case it is curious because at least in the photograph I took indoors it doesn't seem to perform as well. It seems to blur a lot to eliminate noise, and it looks like a very different photograph than what we achieved at 35mm. So maybe in that regard it could improve. In fact, I forgot that it also lets you take portrait shots with 50mm using the main camera, and we still appreciate excellent photography. I did several tests with the 75mm lens because I found its result and behavior very strange. And I conclude that portraits with 75mm are going to come out with a good level of detail as long as you're in a very well lit scene. If you are indoors, it seems that the result is not as detailed as we would like. There are several ways to take macro photography. Here I simply show you two examples. Overall, it can definitely give you a very good quality for these pictures as well. So it looks like a super versatile camera for photography. We'll test the video in more depth in the video review, but for now you should see that it supports 4K video quality at 30 frames per second. And if you disable HDR, you can go up to 60 frames per second or even up to 8K at 30 frames per second. And in the case of video recording, note that it has a master cinema option that will also allow you to have an even more professional color rendition. It's up to you as a user whether you want to use it or not. In fact, it also has a movie mode where you can also enable the master cinema mode, or also some automatic framing or automatic summing options, and some color filters also available here. Although in this case it uses them as a mode of the LUTs, so it seems to be a much more professional color treatment and not simply like the filters that are also available and you can use. The battery is 5 milliamps and supports 90 watts charging. Xiaomi promises to charge up to 100% in just 33 minutes as long as you have boost mode enabled. It also supports wireless charging up to 80 watts, which according to Xiaomi figures would achieve full charge in 46 minutes, obviously with a compatible charger. And like any high-end device, it also has reverse wireless charging functionality. Just powered on, the device has 30.6 gigabytes used, which is a considerably high amount, but the advantage is that it has 512 gigabytes of internal storage, so it really doesn't represent a large percentage. And you also have to remember that it's a device that comes with a ton of camera-focused software, so hopefully it's worth that high amount of storage used. It comes with Android 14 and HyperOS 1.0.2, although in this case it already has an update available that I will install prior to the review. It comes with 16 gigabytes of RAM and its processor is the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. If you like benchmarks, in the case of Geekbench, it achieved 2,224 points on a single core. That's something that many devices fail to achieve, even in the multi-core setting, and in this case the multi-core goes all the way up to 6,739 points. It's really a beast as far as power is concerned. And I also ran Antutu. And it hit 1,957,828 points. It was very close to hitting 2 million. It really is very impressive, the performance that it is capable of achieving. It has several layers of cooling, so in this case Xiaomi definitely did well with its flagship device. It is a pity that it is not available in several regions, although you can buy it by import. In fact, on Amazon or Mercado Libre you could find it for around 22,000 or 23,000 pesos, which, considering everything this device comes with, is an attractive price compared also to today's high-end devices. But this has just been a first look and approach. Remember that we will have the full review available soon. I hope you liked this video. If you did, you know you can let us know, and we'll see you next time.